A quick guide to theatre of the absurd. Theatre of the absurd is not a movement, but is a kind of label or shorthand that we can apply to theatre produced after 2 world wars that challenged the dramatic conventions of what was usually expected when we went to the theatre. It's used to categorise the work of highly individual playwrights who would hate to be labelled, who worked on their own but produced work that had overarching similarities. Can you imagine the despair of a playwright who is trying to question the constructs of life, trying to point out that those constructs are gone, and then someone comes along and constructs about your play which you have specifically written to reveal that there are no sensible constructs and that nothing makes sense. By the way, it's okay for me to use the word constructs plenty of times, as hopefully the repetition of the word will make it devoid of meaning and make it seem absurd. The guy responsible for these constructs, calling the theatre of the absurd, was Martin Esslin, head of radio drama at the BBC in 1963 and a professor of drama. He reckoned it would be useful from a critical analysis point of view to understand why this theatre was produced and just to actually understand it. He has a point, but I'm not sure that the playwrights agree. It is important to realise that it is not a binding classification. It is certainly not all-embracing or exclusive, says Martin Esslin about his own definition of the theatre of the absurd in his book, The Theatre of the Absurd. So when you're watching a piece of theatre, the question is, how do you know it's absurd? What are the characteristics? Well, here are 5 main characteristics that, if you spot them, you're probably watching a piece of theatre that can be categorised as absurd. 1. As opposed to the well-made play, which is based on a set of values where there is a belief that the world is ordered logically, absurd theatre expresses a sense of shock at the absence, the loss of any such clear and well-defined system of beliefs or values. So, theatre of the absurd challenges or deconstructs societal structures such as religion or language. For instance, some dialogue might be meaningless babble, and the loss of a belief system and order leads to existentialist thoughts about the meaning of life and death. Watching an absurd play might seem confusing or illogical. Linear storylines are rejected. There might not even be a storyline. The play can start at an arbitrary point and can end just as arbitrarily. The characters are usually undeveloped representations of allegorical figures with unmotivated actions, rather than fully rounded, deeper characters. The inner world of the playwright is reflected rather than the external world. The aim of the playwright's work is to express their vision of the world as best as they can. There is a dreamlike quality. The plays intend to convey a poetic image or a complex pattern of poetic images. So, to summarise, theatre of the absurd highlights the deconstruction of societal belief systems such as the lack of a God, the lack of meaning or purpose to life. Oh God, there's no God? I want to die. Oh God, I feel like crap. Never forget Theatre of the absurd is funny because life is a joke. Never lose your sense of humour. If you can't see the funny side, you can't see why to survive. And that's why there's slapstick humour in theatre of the absurd.